The space station called Celestial Throne floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most cities on Earth. Its walls were made of strange metal that changed color with the light. Its halls were wide enough for giants to walk through, and giants did walk through them every day. The Draconari were the rulers of the galaxy. They looked like dragons from old Earth stories, but they were real. They stood 12 feet tall with scales that shone like jewels. Their wings folded against their backs like royal capes. Their eyes glowed with ancient wisdom. They had ruled the stars for thousands of years, and they believed they were the greatest beings in the universe. Humans were nothing to them, just small, weak creatures useful for simple work. T-Ho was one of those humans. He was 32 years old with tired eyes and rough hands. Every day, he woke up in his tiny room at the bottom of the station. Every day, he put on his gray uniform with the word sanitation written on the back. Every day, he cleaned the floors, walls, and air systems of the Imperial Wing where the Royal Draconari lived. Nobody looked at him. Nobody talked to him. To the Draconari, he was like a machine that moved and cleaned. They walked past him as if he was made of air. Sometimes, young Draconari children would laugh at him. Once, a noble kicked over his cleaning bucket just for fun. T-Ho said nothing. He just cleaned it up and continued his work. He did not mind being invisible. The job paid well and he sent most of his money back to Earth. His mother was sick. His younger sister was in school. They needed him. So T-Ho kept his head down, did his work, and dreamed of the day he could go home. One evening, everything changed. T-Ho was cleaning a hallway near the royal nursery. This was a restricted area where the children of noble families lived and played. He had been assigned there temporarily because another worker had gotten sick. He was not supposed to be there for long. He was not supposed to talk to anyone. He was just supposed to clean and leave. The hallway was quiet. The lights were dim because it was late. Most of the Draconari children were sleeping in their rooms. T-Ho pushed his cleaning cart slowly, wiping the crystal floors until they shone like mirrors. Then he saw her. Behind a large pillar, half hidden in shadow, was a small Draconari. She was tiny compared to the adults, no bigger than a human child of 8 or 9 years. Her scales were pale silver, almost white like moonlight on snow. Her eyes were huge and round, glowing softly in the darkness. She had small wings pressed tight against her back, and her tail was curled around her feet. She was watching him. T-Ho stopped moving. He had never seen a Draconari child look at him before. Usually, they ignored him or made fun of him, but this little one was different. She was just staring with those big, curious eyes. He smiled at her and raised his hand in a small wave. The little dragon flinched. She pulled back behind the pillar, scared. But then, slowly, very slowly, she peeked out again. Her eyes found his face. She looked at his smile for a long moment. Then she raised her small clawed hand and waved back. T-Ho felt something warm in his chest. It was such a simple thing, but it made him happy. He nodded at her, still smiling, and went back to his work. The next night she was there again. And the night after that. Every evening, when T-Ho came to clean near the royal nursery, the little silver dragon was hiding behind the same pillar. She never made any sound. She never came closer. She just watched him work with those beautiful moon-colored eyes. T-Ho started to look forward to seeing her. He would wave at her each time and she would wave back. Sometimes he would make funny faces and her eyes would crinkle in what he thought was a smile. But she never laughed. She never made any noise at all. After 2 weeks, T-Ho realized something was wrong. Other Draconari children were loud. They roared and shrieked and sang in strange harmonies that hurt human ears. Their voices could shake the walls. But this little one was silent, completely silent. One night, T-Ho decided to be brave. He finished cleaning a section of floor near the pillar where she always hid. Then, instead of moving on, he sat down on the floor. He was tired anyway, and his knees hurt from kneeling all day. He leaned against the wall and looked at the little dragon. She stared at him, confused. No human had ever done this before. Ti-Ho pointed at himself. "Ti-Ho," he said softly, "my name is Ti-Ho." The little dragon tilted her head. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Her eyes filled with something like sadness, and she looked away. Ti-Ho understood then. She could not speak. That was why she was always alone. That was why she hid in shadows while other children played. That was why no one came looking for her. She was different, and in the Draconari world, being different meant being forgotten. Ti-Ho knew how that felt. He was invisible too. He was just a human in a world of giants, someone nobody thought was worth anything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of bread from his dinner. He held it out toward her. The little dragon's eyes went wide. She looked at the bread, then at his face, then at the bread again. Slowly, like a scared animal, she crept forward. Her claws made soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. When she was close enough, she reached out and took the bread from his hand. Their fingers touched for just a moment. Her scales were cool and smooth. She ate the bread quickly, watching him the whole time. When she was done, she did something that surprised Ti-Ho. She reached down and used her claw to draw in the thin layer of dust on the floor. She drew a shape that looked like a crescent moon. Then she pointed at herself. Ti-Ho smiled. "Is that your name?" She nodded. He thought for a moment. In Korean, there was a word that meant morning dew and also sounded like beautiful. It seemed right for this pale, delicate creature. "Can I call you Isol?" he asked. The little dragon tilted her head again. Then slowly she nodded. From that night on, they were friends. Ti-Ho did not know who Isol really was. He did not know that she was the youngest daughter of Grand Matriarch Hyun-Su, one of the most powerful rulers in the Draconari Empire. He did not know that Isol had been born unable to make the harmonic sounds that Draconari used to communicate. He did not know that in Draconari society, a mute child was considered cursed, broken, worthless. All he knew was that this little dragon was alone, and so was he. And sometimes, two lonely souls finding each other was enough to change everything. Ti-Ho finished his work that night with a smile on his face. As he pushed his cart away, he looked back one last time. Isol was still standing there, her silver scales glowing in the dim light. She raised her hand and waved. He waved back. It was just a small moment. Just a human cleaner and a silent dragon child, sharing a simple goodbye. But somewhere in the darkness above them, ancient eyes were watching. Eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. Eyes that now watched a human do something that no Draconari had ever done. Show kindness to the forgotten princess. The watcher said nothing, not yet, but she did not look away. Weeks passed on the celestial throne, and Ti-Ho's life became something new. Every evening, after his long shift of cleaning floors and fixing air filters, he would go to the hallway near the royal nursery. And every evening, Isol would be there waiting for him. She was always in the same spot, hiding behind the big pillar, her silver scales catching the low light like stars. Their friendship grew in silence. Ti-Ho would bring small things for her, a piece of fruit from his lunch, a smooth stone he found while cleaning. Once, he brought a paper flower he had folded during his break. Isol's eyes went so wide when she saw it that Ti-Ho laughed out loud. She held the flower like it was the most precious thing in the universe, turning it over and over in her small clawed hands. She tried to give him things too. One night she brought him a scale that had fallen from her own body. It was silver and beautiful, and it felt like glass in his palm. Ti-Ho kept it in his pocket always. But they could not really talk. Isol could not make sounds, and Ti-Ho did not understand the Draconari writing system. They communicated through gestures and expressions. It was not enough. Ti-Ho could see the frustration in Isol's eyes. She had so much she wanted to say, but she had no way to say it. One night Ti-Ho had an idea. When he was young, back on Earth, his younger brother Dongwu had been born deaf. Dongwu could not hear anything, so he learned to speak with his hands. Sign language, it was called. The whole family had learned it so they could talk to Dongwu. Tiho still remembered all the hand signs. Maybe he could teach Isol. The next evening, Tiho sat down across from Isol on the floor. He held up his hand and made a simple sign. He touched his fingers to his lips, then moved his hand forward with the palm up. "Thank you," he said while making the sign. "This means thank you." Isol watched carefully. Her big eyes followed every movement of his fingers. Then slowly, she lifted her own hand. Her claws were longer than human fingers and they bent in different ways, but she tried. She touched her claws to her mouth and moved them forward. Tiho smiled. "Yes, that's right." Isol made the sign again, faster this time. Her eyes were bright with excitement. From that night on, Tiho taught Isol one new sign every evening. Hello, goodbye, friend, happy, sad, food, sleep, day, night. Isol learned fast. Her hands were different from human hands, but she found ways to make the shapes work. After just 1 month, she could sign almost 50 words. For the first time in her life, Isol could say what she was thinking. "Happy," she signed one night, pointing at Tiho. "Friend, happy." Tiho felt tears in his eyes. He signed back, "I am happy too. You are my friend." Isol's whole body seemed to glow. She made a sound then, not a word, just a soft humming noise. It was the first sound Tiho had ever heard her make. It was beautiful. During this time, Tiho learned more about Isol's life. The other workers on the station talked sometimes, and Tiho listened carefully. Isol was the daughter of Grand Matriarch Hyunsu. The Grand Matriarch was one of the most powerful Draconari in the entire empire. She had ruled for 400 years. Her voice was said to be so powerful that she could crack stone with a single word. She had 3 children. The oldest 2 were strong and loud and perfect. But the youngest, Isol, was different. Isol had been born without the ability to make harmonic sounds. In Draconari culture, voice was everything. The Draconari sang to communicate. They sang to make laws. They sang to pray. They sang to show love. A Draconari without a voice was like a bird without wings. Useless. Broken. The best doctors had tried to help Isol. The best teachers had tried to train her. Nothing worked. Eventually, everyone gave up. Isol was moved to a quiet corner of the royal nursery and forgotten. Her siblings did not visit her. The servants brought her food but never stayed to talk. Even her own mother, the great Grand Matriarch, was said to have stopped coming to see her. Isol was alone in a palace full of people. When Tiho heard this, his heart broke for her. He thought about his own brother Dongwu back on Earth. Dongwu had been deaf, but their family had never given up on him. They had learned sign language. They had found schools that could teach him. Now Dongwu was grown up and working as an artist. He was happy. But Isol had no one. Her own people had decided she was worthless just because she was different. Tiho made a silent promise. He would not give up on her. He would find a way to help her. He started bringing new things to their meetings. He brought a small mirror so Isol could watch her own hands while she signed. He brought a notebook where he drew pictures of each sign so she could practice alone. He brought a soft ball that they could throw back and forth while signing, turning it into a game. Isol loved the games. She was smart, much smarter than Tiho had expected. She learned signs faster than he could teach them. Soon, she was making up her own signs for things that did not exist in human sign language. She created a sign for scale and wing and starlight. "You are amazing," Tiho signed to her one night. Isol ducked her head, embarrassed, but her tail wagged back and forth like a happy dog. Their friendship was a secret. Tiho knew it had to be. He was just a human cleaner. She was a princess, even if she was a forgotten one. If anyone found out that they were meeting every night, Tiho would be in serious trouble, maybe killed. The Draconari had strict laws about humans touching royal blood. But T-Ho did not care. Every time he saw Isol's eyes light up when she learned a new word, every time she signed friend to him, he knew it was worth the risk. One night, something important happened. T-Ho arrived at their usual meeting spot, but Isol was not behind the pillar. He looked around, worried. Had something happened to her? Had someone found out about their meetings? Then he saw her. She was standing in the middle of the hallway, right out in the open. She was waiting for him. This was new. Isol was always hiding. She never stood where others could see her. T-Ho walked toward her slowly. "Are you okay?" he signed. Isol nodded. Her eyes were serious. She had something to tell him. She raised her hands and began to sign. The signs were slow and careful, and T-Ho watched closely. "I want more," she signed. "I want voice." T-Ho's heart sank. He did not know how to give her that. Sign language was wonderful, but it was not the same as speaking, and the Draconari doctors had already said it was impossible. But then Isol continued signing. "I try sound, sometimes alone night." T-Ho leaned forward. "You try to make sounds." Isol nodded. She opened her mouth. Her throat moved. A tiny noise came out, so quiet that T-Ho could barely hear it. It was not a word, it was not even really a voice, but it was something. "Can you help?" Isol signed. T-Ho looked at her for a long moment. He thought about everything he knew about sound and voice. He remembered his school days, singing in the choir. He remembered how the teacher had taught them to breathe from their bellies, to feel the vibrations in their chests. He did not know if it would work. Isol was not human, her body was different, but she was asking for his help, and T-Ho had made a promise. "Yes," he signed, "I will help you, we will try together." Isol's eyes filled with tears. She threw herself forward and wrapped her small arms around him. Her wings spread out and covered them both like a silver blanket. T-Ho held her gently. She was so small, so fragile, and she trusted him completely. Far above them, in the shadows of the high ceiling, ancient eyes watched. The Grand Matriarch Hyunsu had found the perfect hiding spot. She had been watching for weeks now, ever since a guard had reported seeing the human cleaner near the nursery too often. She had expected to find something bad, a thief maybe, or a spy from a rival family. Instead, she had found this, a human man teaching her broken daughter to speak with hands, a friendship that should not exist, a hope she had stopped believing in long ago. Hyunsu watched her daughter hug the human. She saw Isol's tail wagging. She saw the tears on her daughter's face. The Grand Matriarch did not move. She did not call the guards. She just watched, and something old and frozen inside her began to crack. Teaching Isol to speak was the hardest thing T-Ho had ever done. He was not a doctor. He was not a voice teacher. He was just a cleaner who remembered some things from school, but he had promised to help, and he would not break that promise. They started with breathing. T-Ho remembered his old choir teacher, a strict woman named Mrs. Park, who always said that the voice came from the belly, not the throat. He tried to explain this to Isol through signs. "Put your hand here," he signed, touching his stomach. "Feel it move when you breathe." Isol put her clawed hand on her belly. She breathed in slowly. Her scales rose and fell. "Good," T-Ho signed. "Now breathe out slowly, very slowly, make it last." Isol breathed out. The air came from her mouth in a long, silent stream. "Now try to make a sound while you breathe out. Any sound." Isol tried, her throat moved. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She tried again and again. Nothing. After an hour, she was exhausted and frustrated. Her eyes were wet with tears that she refused to let fall. T-Ho sat beside her. "It's okay," he signed. "We just started, it takes time." Isol shook her head. She signed fast and angry. "Doctors say impossible, teachers say impossible, everyone say impossible." "Then everyone is wrong," T-Ho signed back. "You made sounds before, I heard you. Your voice exists. We just need to find it. Iso looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. They tried again the next night, and the next, and the next. During his breaks, T-Ho used the station's computer to research how sound worked. He learned about vibrations and vocal cords and resonance. He learned that different species made sounds in different ways. The Draconari used special organs in their throats to create their harmonic voices. Those organs made high-pitched sounds that could travel through space itself. But Isol's organs were damaged. They could not make high sounds. That was why the doctors said she was mute. But what about low sounds? T-Ho remembered that humans could make sounds in different ranges. High notes, low notes. Maybe Isol's voice was not broken. Maybe it was just in a different range than other Draconari. Maybe she could make low sounds instead of high ones. He brought this idea to Isol. Try to make a deep sound, he signed. Not high, low like this. He made a low humming noise in his chest, almost like a growl. Isol watched him carefully. She put her hand on his chest and felt the vibration. Her eyes went wide. She put her hand on her own chest. She breathed in deep. She tried to hum. A tiny sound came out. It was rough and quiet, but it was there. A low rumble like distant thunder. Yes, T-Ho shouted, then quickly covered his mouth. They had to be quiet. They could not be caught. Isol's eyes were huge. She tried again. The sound was a little louder this time. She could feel it in her chest. She made the sound again and again. Each time it got stronger. Your voice is not broken, T-Ho signed excitedly. It's just different. You can make low sounds, not like other Draconari, like humans. Isol stared at him. Then she stared at her own hands, her own chest. For her whole life, everyone had told her she had no voice. But she did have a voice. It had been there all along. Everyone had just been looking for the wrong thing. The training changed after that night. Now they had a direction. T-Ho focused on helping Isol control her low sounds. They practiced every night for hours. First, Isol learned to hum different notes. Low notes at first, then slightly higher ones. Her range was small compared to humans, but it was growing. Then T-Ho taught her how to shape sounds into letters. This was harder. The Draconari mouth was different from a human mouth. Isol had a longer tongue and sharper teeth. Some sounds were easy for her. The sound M was simple because she just had to close her mouth and hum. The sound O was easy because she just had to open her mouth wide. But other sounds were difficult. The sound S was almost impossible because of her teeth. The sound R made her tongue hurt. They practiced for weeks. Isol got frustrated many times. She cried. She hit the floor with her tail. She signed angry words like stupid and impossible and give up. But T-Ho never got angry. He never got tired of teaching. Every time Isol wanted to quit, he would sit next to her and wait. Try again, he would say gently, speaking out loud while signing. You can do this. I believe in you. And Isol would try again. 3 months passed. It was the longest 3 months of T-Ho's life, but also the best. He watched Isol grow stronger every day. Her voice got clearer. Her confidence grew. She stopped hiding behind the pillar. She would wait for him in the middle of the hallway, standing tall with her wings slightly spread. She was not the same scared little dragon he had met that first night. She was becoming something new, something proud. One night, T-Ho decided it was time to try something big. Tonight we are going to try a word, he signed. Isol's eyes went wide. A whole word. She had only made sounds before, single sounds, never a complete word. What word? She signed. T-Ho smiled. He had thought about this for a long time. He wanted the first word to be something meaningful, something that would give Isol courage. Friend, he said, speaking slowly while signing. Can you try to say friend? Isol looked at him. She took a deep breath. Her chest expanded. She opened her mouth. FFF. The first sound came out weak and shaky. Good, T-Ho signed. Keep going. FFF. Re. Isol's face was tight with concentration. Her claws dug into the floor. "You're doing it, one more part." FFF, in, Isol's voice cracked. She stopped breathing hard. T-Ho waited. Isol closed her eyes. She remembered everything T-Ho had taught her. Breathe from the belly. Feel the vibration in the chest. Shape the sound with the mouth. Don't force it. Let it flow. She opened her mouth one more time. Friend. The word came out clear and strong. It was not a perfect human pronunciation. It was rougher, deeper, with a slight growl underneath. But it was a word. A real word. The first word Isol had ever spoken in her entire life. T-Ho's eyes filled with tears. He could not speak. He could not sign. He just stared at her, his heart so full that it hurt. Friend, Isol said again, stronger this time. Her eyes were shining. Her whole body was trembling. Friend, friend, friend. T-Ho fell to his knees. He opened his arms. Isol ran to him and crashed into his chest, her small wings wrapping around him, her tail curling around his legs. He held her tight as she said the word over and over. Friend, friend, friend. They stayed like that for a long time, two lonely souls who had found each other in the darkness. A human cleaner nobody saw, a dragon princess everyone had forgotten, but together they had done something impossible. They had given silence a voice. Neither of them saw the figure watching from the shadows above. Grand Matriarch Hyun-Soo stood frozen on a high walkway. She had been watching again, as she did every night now. She had told herself it was to protect her daughter, to make sure the human was not dangerous. But that was a lie. The truth was that she could not look away. She had just heard her daughter speak for the first time. In 400 years, Hyun-Soo had heard many things. She had heard armies clash. She had heard stars explode. She had heard the songs of dying worlds. But nothing had ever sounded as beautiful as that single, rough, imperfect word. Friend. Hyun-Soo felt something wet on her face. She raised her claw and touched her cheek. Tears. She was crying. She had not cried in over 200 years. Below, the human man was holding her daughter. He was weeping too. They looked so small together, sitting on the floor of the great hallway. Just a human and a little dragon, surrounded by shadows. But to Hyun-Soo, they looked like the brightest things in the universe. The Grand Matriarch turned away. She walked into the darkness, her ancient heart burning with emotions she had forgotten she could feel. Hope, shame, gratitude, love. She had failed her daughter. She had given up on Isol when the doctors said nothing could be done. She had let her youngest child become invisible, just as the human man was invisible. But this human had not given up. This small, weak, temporary creature had done what the entire Draconari Empire could not do. He had given Isol her voice. Hyun-Soo made a decision. She did not know yet what she would do, but she knew one thing for certain. She would protect this human, no matter what it cost. Grand Matriarch Hyun-Soo had ruled the Draconari Empire for 400 years. She had commanded fleets of warships that could destroy planets. She had made peace treaties with species that had been enemies for 1,000 years. She had survived 3 attempts to kill her and had crushed her enemies without mercy. She was the most powerful being on the celestial throne, perhaps the most powerful being in the entire galaxy. But now, alone in her private chamber, she felt like a failure. Hyun-Soo looked at the old pictures on her wall. There was one of her 3 children when they were young. Her oldest, a strong son who now commanded the military. Her middle child, a brilliant daughter who managed the empire's trade routes. And her youngest, Isol, small and silver, standing slightly apart from the others. Even in that old picture, Isol looked alone. Hyun-Soo remembered the day the doctors had told her that Isol would never speak. She remembered the cold feeling in her chest. In Draconari society, voice was everything. Without a voice, Isol would never be able to participate in politics. She would never sing the ancient songs. She would never take a mate or have children of her own. She would be forever incomplete. Hyun-soo had tried everything. The best doctors, the best teachers, ancient medicines, modern technology, nothing worked. Eventually, she had done what Draconari rulers were supposed to do. She had accepted the situation. She had focused on her other children. She had let Isol fade into the background. It was practical. It was logical. It was what any strong ruler would do. It was also the greatest mistake of her life. Hyun-soo had stopped visiting Isol. At first, it was just because she was busy, but then the days became weeks. The weeks became months. The months became years. She told herself that Isol was fine. She told herself that the servants were taking care of her. She told herself that there was nothing she could do anyway. But the truth was simpler and uglier. Looking at Isol hurt too much. Every time Hyun-soo saw her silent daughter, she felt like a failure, so she stopped looking. And now, a human cleaner had done more for Isol in 3 months than Hyun-soo had done in 10 years. The Grand Matriarch sat in her chair and thought about what she had seen. The human teaching Isol to sign. The human teaching her to breathe. The human holding her when she cried, encouraging her when she failed, celebrating with her when she succeeded. The human loved Isol, not because she was a princess, not because she was powerful. He loved her just because she was Isol, just because she was a lonely child who needed a friend. Hyun-soo had never seen anyone love her daughter like that, not even herself. The shame burned like fire. But Hyun-soo was not a creature who wasted time on regret. She had made mistakes. Now she would fix them. The first problem was safety. The human Tiho was in danger. By Draconari law, a lesser species interacting with royal blood without permission was a serious crime. The punishment was death, slow death. Already, some of the guards had noticed Tiho spending too much time in the Imperial wing. Already, whispers were spreading. One of Hyun-soo's advisors had mentioned the suspicious human just yesterday. It was only a matter of time before someone investigated. Hyun-soo could not openly protect Tiho. If she announced that she approved of his friendship with Isol, it would cause a scandal. The other nobles would be outraged. They would say that the Grand Matriarch had gone soft. They would say that she was letting humans touch royal blood. Her enemies would use it against her. But Hyun-soo had not survived for 400 years by being obvious. She knew how to work in shadows. First, she changed the patrol schedules. The guards who walked near the royal nursery at night were reassigned to other areas. The new guards were old and lazy. They never looked too closely at anything. Then she extended Tiho's security clearance. Before, he could only enter certain parts of the Imperial wing. Now he could go almost anywhere. If anyone asked, the records would show that this was just a computer error. Then she made sure the path between Tiho's quarters and the royal nursery was always clear. Lights that should turn on automatically stayed dark. Cameras that should record were mysteriously broken. It was as if the station itself was helping Tiho move in secret. All of this Hyun-soo did alone, late at night, when no one could see her. But she did not stop there. Hyun-soo began to watch Isol more carefully, not in secret from the shadows, in person. She started visiting the royal nursery again, something she had not done in years. The first time she walked into Isol's room, her daughter looked at her with shock and fear. Isol pressed herself against the wall, her silver scales trembling. She did not know why her mother was there. She probably thought she was in trouble. Hyun-soo felt her heart crack. "I am not here to punish you," she said softly. It was hard to speak softly. Her voice was made for commands, for speeches, for war songs, but she tried. Isol stared at her. She did not move. Hyun-soo did not know what to say. She had talked to kings and generals and gods, but she did not know how to talk to her own daughter. So she did something she had never done before. She sat down on the floor, folding her great legs beneath her until she was at Isol's level. Her ancient joints ached. She ignored them. "I know you have been meeting someone," Hyunsu said. "The human cleaner." Isol's eyes went wide with terror. She opened her mouth but no sound came out. Old habits. She was too scared to try her new voice. Hyunsu raised her hand. "You are not in trouble, neither is he. I have been watching. I saw what he did for you." Isol was shaking now. She raised her hands and signed something. Hyunsu did not understand the signs, but she understood the movement. Isol was begging, "Please, please, please." "I will not hurt him," Hyunsu said. "I promise." Isol stopped shaking. She looked at her mother with uncertain eyes. "I should have helped you," Hyunsu continued. Her voice was rough. These words were hard to say. "I should have tried harder, I should have stayed. I gave up on you and that was wrong." Isol tilted her head. She had never heard her mother apologize for anything. "The human did not give up," Hyunsu said. "He is braver than I am, kinder than I am. He saw you when I stopped looking." She paused. "I am sorry, Isol, I failed you." For a long moment, nothing happened. Mother and daughter looked at each other across years of silence and distance. Then Isol did something amazing. She opened her mouth and spoke. "Mother," she said. The word was rough and low, but it was clear. It was the second word she had ever spoken out loud. Hyunsu felt tears roll down her face. She did not try to stop them. Isol took a step forward, then another. Then she was running, her small legs carrying her across the room, her wings spreading for balance. She crashed into her mother's arms. Hyunsu caught her. She held her tight. Her great wings spread and wrapped around them both, creating a cocoon of warmth and darkness. "I am sorry," Hyunsu whispered. "I am so sorry." Isol said nothing. She just held on. They stayed like that for a long time. A powerful ruler and her forgotten daughter, a mother who had failed and a child who had been abandoned. But in that moment, none of that mattered. They were just family, finally finding each other again. Later, after Isol had fallen asleep, Hyunsu stood by the window and looked out at the stars. She thought about the human cleaner, Tiho. He did not know what he had done. He did not know that he had changed everything. He had given Isol a voice. He had given Hyunsu a second chance. He had saved her family. Hyunsu made another decision then. The human's contract was ending soon. He was supposed to return to Earth. She would not let that happen. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She would find a way to keep him on the station. She would find a way to reward him for what he had done. And she would find a way to thank him. But not yet. First, she had more work to do. She had years of lost time to make up for. She had a daughter to get to know again. Hyunsu looked at Isol, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. "Thank you," she whispered to the human who could not hear her. "Thank you for not giving up on her when I did." Outside the window, the stars burned like distant promises. The universe was vast and cold and full of danger. But somewhere in the darkness, a simple act of kindness had changed everything. And this was only the beginning. The day came that Tiho had been dreading. His contract was ending. After 18 months on the celestial throne, he was scheduled to return to Earth on the next transport ship. His bags were packed. His room was empty. His cleaning cart had been handed over to his replacement. He should have been happy. He had not seen his family in so long. His mother's health had improved thanks to the money he sent. His sister had finished school and started working. Everything was good. But leaving meant saying goodbye to Isol, and that was breaking his heart. That evening, he went to their usual meeting spot one last time. The hallway near the royal nursery was quiet and dim, just like the first night they had met. Tiho stood by the pillar and waited. Isol appeared from the shadows. She was bigger now than when they had first met. Her scales shone brighter. Her wings were stronger, but her eyes were the same, big and round and full of feeling. "You are leaving," she said. Her voice was still rough and low, but she could speak many words now. She had been practicing every day, every night. She could say almost anything she wanted. Yes, Tiho said. He tried to smile, but his face would not cooperate. My contract is finished. I have to go back to Earth. Iso walked toward him slowly. Her tail dragged on the ground behind her. I don't want you to go, she said. I don't want to go either, Tiho admitted. But my family needs me, and you. You don't need me anymore. You have your voice now. You can speak. You can sign. You can tell people what you think and feel. Isol shook her head. I will always need you. You are my friend, my first friend, my best friend. Tiho knelt down so he was at her level. He looked into her silver eyes. You will make other friends, he said gently. You are strong now. You are brave. People will see how amazing you are. They don't see me, Isol said bitterly. They see a broken princess, a mistake. You are the only one who ever really saw me. Tiho reached out and put his hand on her shoulder. Her scales were cool under his fingers. Listen to me, he said. You are not broken, you are not a mistake. You are Isol, you are smart and kind and determined. You have a voice that no one else in the galaxy has. It is not a Draconari voice. It is not a human voice. It is your voice, and it is beautiful. Isol's eyes filled with tears. She threw her arms around him and held on tight. I don't want to say goodbye, she whispered into his shoulder. Then don't, Tiho said. Just say see you later, because I will come back one day, I promise. They held each other for a long time. Tiho memorized the feeling of her small arms around him, the coolness of her scales, the soft sound of her breathing. He wanted to remember this forever. Finally, Isol pulled back. She wiped her eyes with her claws. See you later, she said. Her voice cracked, but she did not look away. See you later, Tiho replied. He stood up. He turned toward the door. Each step felt like walking through mud, but he kept moving. He had to. His transport was leaving in 2 hours. He was almost at the door when everything changed. The door opened before he could touch it. Light flooded into the hallway. Tiho raised his hand to shield his eyes. A figure stood in the doorway, a massive figure with scales that burned like red fire, wings that stretched across the entire corridor, eyes that glowed with ancient power. Grand Matriarch Hyunsu. Tiho's blood turned to ice. He dropped to his knees immediately, pressing his forehead to the floor. This was the proper way for a human to greet Draconari royalty. Any other response could mean death. Grand Matriarch, he said, his voice shaking. I apologize, I did not mean to be here. I was just leaving. I will never return. He waited for the guards to grab him. He waited for the sentence of death. He had broken the law. He had talked to a royal princess without permission. He had touched her. He had taught her. He deserved whatever punishment came. But the punishment did not come. Instead, he heard footsteps, heavy footsteps coming closer. Then a voice, deep and powerful but somehow gentle. Look at me, human. Tiho raised his head slowly. The Grand Matriarch was standing right in front of him. She was even bigger up close. Her scales gleamed like polished rubies. Her eyes burned with intelligence and something else, something unexpected. Warmth. I have been watching you, Hyunsu said. For months, I have seen what you did for my daughter. Tiho's mouth opened, but no words came out. Hyunsu continued. The Draconari believe we are the greatest species in the universe. We believe that lesser species have nothing to offer us. We are wrong. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small crystal object. It was shaped like a star and glowed with inner light. This is the seal of imperial favor, Hyunsu said. It has not been given to a non-Draconari in over 300 years. It grants the holder citizenship in the Draconari Empire, protection under my personal authority, and all the rights and honors of a member of the royal household. She held it out toward Tiho. He stared at it, not understanding. I am giving this to you, Hyunsu said. You gave my daughter her voice. You gave her hope. You gave her a reason to smile. These are gifts more valuable than any treasure in my empire. This seal is a small thing in comparison, but it is what I have to offer." Ti-Ho looked at the seal, then at the Grand Matriarch, then at Isol, who had crept up beside her mother and was watching with wide, hopeful eyes. I don't understand," Ti-Ho said. "You want me to stay?" "I want you to have a choice," Hyun-Soo said. "You can take this seal and return to Earth. You will be wealthy and protected for the rest of your life. Or you can stay here on the celestial throne and continue to teach my daughter. Continue to be her friend. The choice is yours." Ti-Ho looked at Isol. She was trying not to look too hopeful, but her tail was wagging behind her. He thought about Earth, his mother, his sister, his old life. Then he thought about Isol, her first word, her first smile, the way she trusted him completely. He thought about being invisible, about being nobody, about being a machine that cleaned floors. And he thought about being a friend, about mattering to someone, about making a difference. The choice was not hard at all. "I will stay," Ti-Ho said, "but only if I can still see my family sometimes." Hyun-Soo smiled. It was a strange expression on her fierce face, but it was real. "You may visit Earth whenever you wish," she said. "You may bring your family here if they want to come. You are part of my household now. Whatever you need, you shall have." She placed the seal in his hands. It was warm against his skin. Isol could not contain herself any longer. She ran forward and crashed into Ti-Ho, knocking him backward. He fell onto the floor with a small dragon princess on top of him, her wings flapping with joy. "You're staying," she shouted. "You're staying, you're staying." Ti-Ho laughed. It was the first real laugh he had felt in months. "I'm staying," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." Hyun-Soo watched them. The human man lying on the floor of her palace, laughing. Her daughter, who had been silent for 10 years, shouting with happiness. It was not proper. It was not dignified. It was not how the Drakenari did things. It was perfect. "The galaxy believes humans are primitive," Hyun-Soo said quietly. "They think you are weak and small and unimportant. They do not understand what you truly are." Ti-Ho looked up at her, still holding Isol in his arms. "What are we?" he asked. Hyun-Soo looked at her daughter's smile. She looked at the tears of joy running down Isol's face. She looked at the human who had done the impossible simply because he cared. "You are kind," she said. "Simple, stubborn, endless kindness. That is your gift. That is your power. And it is something the Drakenari forgot long ago." She turned and walked toward the door. But before she left, she looked back one more time. "Take care of my daughter Ti-Ho," she said. "She is lucky to have you." Then she was gone. Isol and Ti-Ho sat on the floor together. The hallway was quiet again. The lights were dim, but everything was different now. "Hey Isol," Ti-Ho said. "Yes." "Do you want to learn more words tomorrow?" Isol smiled. It was the brightest smile Ti-Ho had ever seen. "Yes," she said. "I want to learn all the words. I want to talk forever. I want to tell everyone everything I could never say before." Ti-Ho smiled back. "Then let's start tomorrow," he said. "We have all the time in the world." Outside the window, the stars burned in the endless darkness. The universe was vast and cold and full of wonders. Empires rose and fell. Species evolved and died. Time itself was just a river flowing toward an ocean of infinity. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was a human cleaner who refused to give up, a little dragon who found her voice, and a mother who learned that sometimes the smallest people could give the biggest gifts. The story would spread eventually. Other Drakenari would hear about the human who taught the silent princess to speak. Some would be angry, some would be confused, but many would be curious. They would start to look at humans differently. They would start to wonder what else they had missed. Change would come slowly, but it would come. And it all started with a simple wave in a dark hallway. a smile from a stranger, a piece of bread shared between two lonely souls. Kindness. Simple, stubborn, endless kindness. The most human thing of all.